Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans.
They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day. And that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
'Tis the season to shine with H&M. Discover the holiday collection and find fashionable pieces for your wardrobe or for under the tree. Get inspired and dazzle with this year's glam. From tuxedo styles, bow detailed pieces, impressive prints, and more. From unforgettable looks to unforgettable gifts. With fashion finds to home decor, find it all at H&M. Treat your loved ones and yourself this season. Shop in-store or at hm.com.
Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of Vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Anything to shake this mood I'm in. My football team's got me drinking.
Back at it again with another episode of the Shades of Blue Soccer Show. We are the KC Soccer Journal. My name is Cody. Robert, Thad, and David are all here. Apparently there was a game last night. I don't know. I went to a very fancy dinner, the World War I Museum. I'm told there was a game. I don't know. Did anything important happen? I kind of missed out.
Do you really want to know, man? It's not like the whole night. It's the Friday night sucked, Saturday night sucked twice.
Yeah.
Do you really want details?
No, what a terrible weekend for Kansas City soccer. Nothing went right.
Well, hey, I mean, we're doing a shorter pod today, I've been told. Why don't we just cover the first 70 minutes of the game?
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. The one time, it's so crazy. The one time at this night, I was making a point to not check into the game. I went to this event because I was scared of this game. And I was trying to make a point to not check in. But I did around the 70th minute. And I was like, okay, 0-0. I'll take this for right now. And then, yeah, when I looked at the very end of the night, I was like, how has this happened?
All hell broke loose.
Okay, so we are going to do maybe a shorter pod. We're going to focus just on the game here and then give you something on Wednesday, more fresh midweek pod where we can talk about the Wednesday games and where we stand and all of that. So another one's coming, and we're going to just talk about this terrible game. And we're going to get this one out of the way quickly is kind of my thinking here. So the one thing I have seen is that Jake Davis was getting, I'm just going to talk about something positive off the start. Jake was getting a lot of praise and that he was kind of the center of the team and a very important figure in this game. A lot of the highlights involved him. Seemed like he was getting, or he was taking a beating. Thad, tell me about Jake last night.
Oh, he got a lot of love from St. Louis, man. Of course, that might be, domestic violence kind of love.
Right. Really heavy love.
Yeah. So he was scissor tackled once with what probably should have been at least a yellow, could have been a red. He was also headbutted once, which was only a yellow.
Little baby headbutt, but hey, a headbutt is a headbutt, right, David?
Yeah, sure. No big deal. Who cares about a headbutt? Jake, I thought Jake played a pretty decent game. Not a ton going forward, but I think he was getting under the skin of a lot of the St. Louis players because Jake is physical, but he wasn't coming in with a lot of hard tackles. It wasn't the Roger Espinoza-ish crunching tackles. He's very good with body positioning And so he was doing a great job of shielding off the ball, of getting himself in between the ball and the St. Louis players. And they got very frustrated with him early. He had and the thing Dad was talking about was Jake won the ball off of Adeniran. They had, a battle in the Sporting KC box. Jake won it, took a touch out wide to go clear it upfield, and Adeniran came in late with a scissor tackle. I mean, got the ball, but only after clearing out the plant leg, and it was a throw in. It wasn't even a foul.
Sounds a lot like some of the experience in the first time in St. Louis, a little bit. So it was, like I said, it was the quick turnaround. Robert, what happened there? The floodgates opened. Did Sporting just lost focus, fell into the environment there, and lost what they were doing? What happened? Tell me.
Well, I mean, the game was pretty even as far as chances went. Both goalkeepers were hot. But, St. Louis just all season has been more efficient in the box, putting chances away. As you know, Sporting is, 16 shots and, maybe get a goal, maybe 2 out of it. So it was just a matter of time, seemingly that way, that St. Louis would break through. And I knew if St. Louis scored first, it could get ugly, and it did quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It's also innate, like the way that they're getting their goals, though, is not. It's not like they have beautiful build-up play, or that they were even getting their goals from some of them were from the run of play, but they were all it was all slop, right? So the first goal is off of a set piece where nobody marked Adeniran in front of him. Polito stood behind him, and he was the first man in the line. So he had just a wide header. There wasn't even an attempt at defense. That's not St. Louis.
And Polito didn't even go with him at first.
Right. It's not like St. Louis was so good, or it was so clever off of the training ground, or even that the delivery was great. He just literally unmarked in the box on a header, and he's 6'5". Stroud's goal was that Fontes cleared the ball to the middle of the box when he didn't need to, and kicked it.
Don't call it a clearance. It wasn't a clearance.
he politely passed the ball directly to another player. And then the other two were Ndembe losing Klaus at the back post. But it's not like, they're creating these beautiful passing sequences or hitting through balls. It's all like slop and stuff that, players are falling asleep. Well, it's not, they don't play good soccer. They play ugly, shitty soccer.
Well, David, I don't want to necessarily be the show that's like, they're not even good, they got lucky. But we talk about this a lot, and we're not the only ones. This is something around the league that it's a theme. They do seem to continue to get lucky, and it seems like they play, you use the word slop, there are a lot of sloppy goals, and some of them are, but it's like, try to give them some credit here. Like, it's been going on almost the whole season here. Like, something they're doing is working. It is not just, there's no way you can possibly score that many slop goals. They are doing something that puts them in these positions, and so I don't know what that is. That are they? What is this style of play that they do? Yeah, go ahead, David.
Well, so there's two factors to it, right? Is you create a slop, you create all the slop when you create chaos, which is the energy drink soccer, right? It's the Red Bull style. And I can't remember if it's Bradley Carnell or Lutz Vanensteel or whoever their GM is. I can't remember which one's the Red Bull guy. But they play Red Bull soccer, which is just chaos at all times, right? They press extremely hard, and it doesn't require them to have any skill, because if you press hard enough, every once in a while, something will break your way. So that's kind of the nature of how they're set up to play. But we saw this last year with Austin. Austin had a great season last year, but they way overperformed their XG. And it's not sustainable. And that's why Austin is trash this year. St. Louis has 62 goals on the year and 40 goals against. Their XG is 41 goals, 41.8 XG, and 47.7 XG against. They have a minus 5.9 XG expected goal differential. So the underlying metrics suggest that they should actually be -6 in the table. They should have 20 fewer goals than they've got. And so, it's great. Mazel tov to them. Congrats. You're going to finish first in the West. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. It will not last.
It's those MLS script writers that like to give the team in their first year a good run, and then it falls apart the next year.
Well, with Adeniran and Klaus up front, they've got two monsters up there, guys. Rosero wasn't going to win every head ball all night. There was going to be a point where one of those guys was going to beat somebody in the air, and Rosero wasn't going to be there. So they've got that going for him. And Klaus, guys, come on. He's got some class. You got to admit that in his play. He's got some skill. And then Leuven, his ball that he played into Klaus for goal number 3, I think. He plays some nice balls in for sure. So they do have quality for sure. And they didn't score until Giacchini came on, and I don't know, was it Giacchini's movement that changed anything? But they poured it on once he came on too. So
yeah,
I see. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to kind of counter a little bit that you say it's not sustainable, but so far it has been. And it's not that different than what Sporting played in 2012, 2013. Now, you could say it wasn't sustainable because it petered out after that for a while until Peter changed the style to be more possession. And they got better at that in the 2015, 2017 timeframe. But it can last. I mean, it works in other teams around the world. You do wear players out over time, though. I mean, that's probably why some of the Sporting players didn't last as long in their careers as they could have. But it does work, and it is an effective method, especially when you have a new team that you want to get success right out the gate, and you're going to go out and do a lot of that work.
Well, beyond the script writers, I also had someone ask me, a non-soccer fan who just knew St. Louis was doing really well in their first season. They were just like, how is that possible? Like, how are they doing that? And honestly, the first thing that came to my mind is Berkey, the keeper. Like, it is insane the number of points. I wish someone could go back and look at this. Like, that dude has to have earned them 15 points like this at some point this season. Like, it's just insane. Like, he really is the MVP of their team and deserves a shout for this league.
He really is good.
I think after Shallowy played the ball for Denbe's diving header, Shallowy said something to Berkey afterwards. They shared a laugh. I don't know what he said, but
like, God damn, dude.
No, Berkey deserves to be in the MVP running.
He does.
He's definitely won them a lot of games, earned them a lot of points.
And I am gonna say that is a little. The stars have aligned for this team in the first year. Like, that is lucky. I'm sorry, it's lucky that you just sign a keeper and the first keeper you have is like instantly the best in the league. Like, that's another thing. There's just a lot of good fortune that is surrounding this team this year.
Well, you know what the worst thing is about it though? It's also good for playoff soccer. That's soccer that can win playoff games. So if they go and win MLS Cup, oh my God, that's going to be so.
I mean,
think about it.
It's not exactly like hockey where it's like you get a hot keeper at the right time, then you can make a run and all that. It's not exactly like that, but yes, in the playoffs and those thin margins and those crazy games and goal line clearances, Berkey can absolutely make a difference there.
And again, fairness to them, they had run up time. It's not like a expansion Major League Baseball team where your whole market of players is already in the league or coming out of college, or the same for NFL. Kind of similar for hockey, but there's a little bit more out there. But you have everybody around the world to pick from. They went out and they were able to pull in guys that were good. They were able to pull in good MLS guys who were not maybe name guys, but were solid contributors. And they did a good job of putting together a team that could do well at the start. Now, long term, will that be what they want to, that style they want to play? Who knows? It's entertaining. Again, a lot of Sporting KC fans were cheering on, Dom Dwyer and those guys back in those early days that were playing a lot of that high pressure soccer, and it works.
Right, but I think
we're talking way too much about St. Louis, but they've got a lot of guys who have bought in too. Everybody's just in on what they're doing there, and I think that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, but to Thad, your point, I think the argument against that though is what you're saying was 11 years ago, and that the league has evolved since then to maybe something more, I don't know, a more appealing style of play, a more fun style of play to watch. prettier style of play. Maybe, I don't know.
You wouldn't be enjoying winning by 4 goals against a rival team.
No, I am, but I've given them ton of credit in this episode here. I'm just saying that is another argument that's like that this team is like slop or lucky or, you know, I don't know. It's just in that same arena there.
I don't necessarily like the style as much as what I'm trying to make it sound good when I'm making this argument, but it is an effective style. It's not just slop.
Mm-hmm.
It is. This is the same thing. The same complaints that Christ had against us back in MLS Cup. Oh, they score because they always get the ball in our end. Well, that's a damn good plan to me. I mean, it was what Sporting did, and it was a lot of fun back then.
Does it just mean that MLS hasn't evolved past that, David?
No, MLS has evolved past that. There's a reason Sporting evolved away from that, because there's a finite window of effectiveness where you can be categorized as like a tough defensive team playing that high press style, right? Because there's different ways to be a tough defensive team. You can press the bejesus out of people. And the reality is they foul relentlessly, but they know that not everything will get called. So at one point, Klaus shoved Radoya in the back with 2 hands, and it led to a chance because it wasn't called. But he took 2 hands and shoved Radoya in the back and knocked him off the ball. You can't do that, but it doesn't get called because they're not going to call 65 fouls in a game against a team.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the like compact, like Nashville style, because Nashville doesn't press that hard. They're just very organized. The league and the referees figure out teams that play like Salt Lake do. There's a reason New York Red Bulls were very good for a while. They have not been half as good since. In the last 6-7 years, Red Bull have not been great. And it's because they don't get to, it doesn't work the same way the longer you do it, right? Like the players stop buying in because it's a lot of strain on the body. But then also the officials, like you don't think that Vermees and the club and all the other Western Conference teams like Seattle aren't going to call the league office and be like, here's a clip of all of the times that they spiked Logan and Denbei and didn't get a red card for it. And so there's going to be huge emphasis on it, but it's sustainable this year. It's working very well. But like I said, if you go back and look at Austin last year, Austin scored 65 goals and had 49 against. Their XG was 50 and XG against was 52. So again, they were -2 XG. This year, Chickens came home to roost. They've only scored 43 goals on 39.9 XG. Because it's not sustainable. You can't outperform the underlying metrics year after year after year. No team in the world does. And so good for St. Louis. Can't wait to watch them get bounced in the playoffs. I hope I hope their stadium implodes, but it won't work next year. It won't work the year after. Like they're going to they will come back to regress back to the mean.
It sounds a lot like the exact things that we were saying at the beginning of the season after their hot start. That never happened, and they're still doing all of these things. But Robert, why don't you wrap us up on the St. Louis part, and then I'm going to bring us back to actual Sporting Kansas City.
We sucked.
Yeah. I think what I'm going to do is going to do that somewhat too. I mean, David, you're talking about Austin last season, and I wrote down some stats regarding last season because right now, if you look at the standings, guys, I mean, the West is so much parity in the West. For example, the number 2 through 6 teams in the East would be in second place in the West. I know it's not a balanced schedule, but if they're in the West with their point totals, they'd be in second place, 2nd through 6th in the East. And then you were talking about goals scored. So 2022, the East scored 306 goals. So far, the East has only scored 268. That's a pretty dramatic difference. I know there's some games left.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you look just at goals scored, scoring is down this year. The West is down. LAFC is down. Seattle's been kind of down too. And the only reason Sporting has a chance is because of that parity in the West this season. You know, we've got 2 games left. We started off 0-7-3. We still have a shot to make the playoffs, which is crazy.
This episode is brought to you by Google Pixel, the official fan phone of the NBA and WNBA. The new Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro are built different. How? Take the Audio Magic Eraser tool that helps block out distracting crowd noise so your play-by-play commentary sounds crystal clear.
The only phone engineered by Google brings out the audio you care about, so your videos sound as crisp as they look. Learn more at googlestore.com/pixelnba. Audio Magic Eraser requires Google Photos app. May not work on all audio elements. Apple Gift Card is a practical gift that unlocks a world of entertainment and fun. You can send it via email or give a physical card to your loved ones. Your friends and family can spend it on their favorite Apple services, including Apple subscriptions. Apple Gift Card can be used to buy all things Apple. Products, accessories, apps, games, movies, TV shows, iCloud Plus, and more. Visit apple.com for details and to send Apple Gift Cards to your friends and family this holiday season.
Bringing it back to Sporting Kansas City.
We sucked.
Alan Pulido. So I watched the highlights. One thing I didn't see in the highlights was really any of Alan Pulido. Did our star striker go missing last night?
Yeah,
What's
he
your
was in the
thoughts?
midfield all game.
Oh, that theme. We're still going on that theme, huh?
Yeah, there are a couple of comments in our Slack channel and on KC Soccer Journal that him and just Gutierrez are taking up a lot of the same space. And yeah, you could see that for sure.
Since Polito re-signed, how many goals has he scored? 0.
0.
Since that time, how many goals has Agata scored? 2.
Mm-hmm.
But much less minutes.
You know, last night too, you guys were talking about Jake Davis. He wasn't great on the ball last night. There was a number of giveaways that he had, but we had no viable threat on the right side, who played, in place of Russell. That did not help Sporting either.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny Russell's not the difference between us winning and losing, but he would have helped break the press.
Right.
And I think that's part of why Allen was dropping back in the midfield so much, is that Allen is more press resistant than anybody else on the team, probably. He's calmer on the ball and has more skill on the ball than, most of our other guys. Like Radoya at one point, and it was when it's the same play where Klaus shoved him in the back, but at the top of our own box is just so slow and just so casual on the ball and has no urgency, has no body positioning, and was really fortunate that he didn't give away a turnover that led to a goal. Polito's the only guy on the team who's like particularly press resistant.
We sucked.
So how many, like if we extrapolate out the 4-0 loss, the 4-1 loss, in about 2 years, Sporting should be able to pull out a win there?
God.
I mean, there needs to be a lot for Sporting to be more competitive. And a big part of that's how the team sets up tactically. And then a big part of it was just losing our heads. I mean,
clearly heads were lost in the 70th minute after the first goal went in.
Yeah. I mean, but it's also the way St. Louis plays is very physical and it wears on the opposing team. It wears on them too, which is why they have to sub so frequently. But Bradley Carnell's very good at using all of his substitutions. They make 2 subs. We sub in Remy for Felipe, and then they score 2 goals. And then we sub in Gotti, and then they score 2 more goals. And, we've got tired legs. We've got a bunch of dudes who are absolutely gassed from getting run at and beaten on all game. And instead of, being more proactive, we make reactive subs.
You won't
and the game's
die.
already lost by then.
You won't die, Vermees says about being tired in a game and running hard until the end. Did you guys see that quote last week? It was literally like, no, you won't die. You're not actually going to die by the end of the game, so just keep running. That's where we stand with how tired our players are.
Well, in Slack, both Thad and I were wanting Gotti to come on, but by the time Gotti came on, he was irrelevant because the game had changed so much by then that it's like, okay, he's not going to have an impact by now.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't come on sooner. I expected him to come in after the half or maybe the 60th minute, but by the time it was too late.
Yeah.
Bad performances from the center backs. Does anyone who played well, does anyone deserve a good shout out besides Jake? And then even him, we tampered expectations there.
Agata.
Willie got the goal. What'd you think of Agata, Thad?
He needed more time, but he got a ball past Berkey, so that's progress.
Yeah, and he was in the box. He was in the box at the right time.
He was in the box. He got separation and he headed it in. So
I think on the ball, Ndenbe has improved in the last number of matches. He's much more ambitious going forward, much more aggressive. So that was a highlight, I thought, too.
Robert, you said he was getting booed by the crowd when he would get the ball. I wonder if any of our listeners know what that was about. There must have been like a tackle earlier in the game that you were typing on the computer and missed or something like that.
I don't know, but it maybe has something to do with the game in St. Louis. I have no idea. But yeah, every time he touched the ball, a very audible booing for Ndenbe. So don't know what's going on there.
Well, Thad, we should remind people that Sporting Kansas City received an apology for Logan getting absolutely cleared out in the last game in St. Louis, and there wasn't even a foul called for it. So I don't recall
another one?
No, I mean, yeah, I don't recall any reason for them to hate Ndenbe, but I know a reason for him to be angry at them.
Yeah, I actually texted somebody with the team to see if they knew why he was getting booed, and they said they had no clue. So,
jealous of his calves, probably.
As you are.
Right. Can we talk about the headbutt?
Yeah, Thad, I meant to come back to you on that one. You're normally our level head, reasonable, objective, both sidesing things. Was that a red card for you?
Yes. I don't think it was a vicious headbutt. I don't think it was hard, but it doesn't have to be because it's a violent contact to the head. It should be a straight red, period, to prevent that stuff from happening, right? Dennerin, whatever his name was, I think that should have been a red, and I think it should have been VAR'd because that was just as vicious. Because you go back to the Johnny Russell one, he got the ball, it rolled over, he caught part of his leg. Although I still think the ball rolling into his leg actually caused the ankle to bend, but but I could still see why they ended up doing that one, even though I would not necessarily have agreed with it. And this one I think was more clear of a vicious tackle because he came in and when you scissor somebody, your crotch actually goes into their leg, and that's the force on it. And the knees met before he ever touched the ball. And then he cleared him out after that. So both of those could have been red.
And well, I'm glad you brought up Johnny's because for me, both of those, all the logic that you use to give Johnny that red card, if you're using that logic, then both of those plays should have been red cards. It's like the one on Johnny's. It's like that wasn't intentionally malicious, but at the bottom line, he rolled over and his studs got the guy's leg high up on his leg. So boom, you give a red card. Bottom line here, a guy put his head in and headbutted somebody, threw his forehead into somebody in the back of their head. That's a red card. That's how it goes. That's how the game works. And then that one, the other one, he cleaned him out. Maybe he got the ball, but he also got his knee got him first and then cleared him out after the play too. Yeah, it's very weird. So there you go. Those are my three reasons on why St. Louis is outdoing their XG is Berkey, referees, and they're just lucky. And other teams are giving them goals.
I mean, I hate to ask, but I mean, I wonder if the result of the play would have been different had Jake gone down. Jake doesn't flop to the ground. He's not rolling around like he's been like severely injured. He just grabbed the back of his head and started rubbing it and said, this dude headbutted me. So they gave him a yellow. But I'm wondering, if Jake goes down and starts rolling around,
of course,
does that change things? And it's disgusting that that's what somebody would have to do, especially in the era of VAR. Like the whole point of VAR is to catch stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I don't think, I can't remember the kid's name, Markinovich or whatever. I don't think that he headbutted Jake that hard, but it's not a matter of like, the rules don't say that you have to headbutt somebody with the force to knock them out. It's that it's violent conduct to the head or neck. And he was mad because Jake had fouled him. So he runs up and cracks him in the back of the head.
Yeah.
That's a red all day long.
Yeah, and the only thing I can think of why they did not go to VAR is the referee clearly saw it. I mean, the referee was standing there. I think he saw it. And he's like, yeah, you deserve a yellow, but it wasn't that violent. Or, I'm just going with what he's probably logicking in his head. That I think the rules should be interpreted differently, but I think that's probably why that specific one did not go to VAR.
Yeah, David, you brought up that if Jake goes down, then he probably gets a call. And Thad, I just forgot that referee's name, the husband and wife duo of referees.
Enzo.
Oh, no, that's not who I'm thinking of. There's another. Hold on. Someone filibuster for me. God dang it. I'm sorry.
Well, so as wrong as these calls were, and Sporting arguably should have been playing up 2 men in the first half. I mean, it's not why we lost, right? I mean, the game's obviously different if they give us the calls, but I'm disappointed in seeing the same mistakes over and over and over from the defense. The same mistakes over from Fontes, the same mistakes over from Logan. It's like Groundhog's Day, man.
It is, but at the same time, you can't say that didn't have a part to play in the loss, because if they would have been a man down or 2 men down, they probably would have just been a man down, because one of them would have went out. It would have changed how that game played out. But that would have been key player on their part, and that would have given Sporting a little more room to pass the ball around and be a little more clean with it and potentially create more opportunities and higher quality opportunities. So I always hesitate, like, oh, well, we didn't lose because the ref was terrible. Well, if the ref didn't make the calls, kind of maybe that did play a part.
So I was referring.
Yeah, but I think what David's speaking to a little bit is another off season where we need to look for center backs.
I'm not arguing that, but just talking about this specific game.
Yeah.
I was referring to Christina Uncle, who, just because of the unique last name, I was assuming there was a relation of some sort to Ted Uncle. She tweeted, this is on my Twitter right now, on my timeline. She tweeted a play from the Philadelphia-Nashville game in which Philadelphia player gets cleaned out by the last 2 defenders. All 3 players are on the ground, and another Philadelphia player comes in and gets the ball and gets a shot off, hits crossbar, goes out. And they were going to give the Nashville players a red card, but because the play continued and they got a shot, they didn't give the player a red card and they only gave them a yellow. And she was applauding this, holding this up as an example of this is what needs to be done. And this is another example where we've had this conversation on this podcast many times, that referees encourage diving. The way the game is called, the players are encouraged to just go down and stay down to get the call. And this is exactly what that was. Philadelphia continued to play and are in a worse position because they did so. They would have, if they would have stopped that play and run over to the referee, cause commotion, do all these things that fans don't want them to do, the referees don't want them to do. They would have done all of those things. That guy would have gotten a red card. They would have had a free kick in a dangerous place, and they would have had a main advantage for 30 minutes. So because of the way the referees called that, Philadelphia was in a worse position than they would have been if they did all the things we don't want them to do. Now, I think
it's one of the things that delays growth of the game, because your average American sports fan, oh man, I don't like soccer. Those guys just fake it. They roll around, like blah, blah, blah. You know, it's more fun to watch. And I am throwing up a little bit in my mouth saying it, but Dwyer got hacked down in the box one game, obviously years and years ago, popped up and followed the ball and got the goal off, but it was a PK. Had he not gotten the goal, it was a penalty kick, but kudos to him for getting up and pursuing it. One of the reasons that this city's fallen in love with Johnny is that Johnny's tough. I mean, if Johnny really gets hacked, he goes down, but otherwise, Johnny's not flopping and like simulating injury. That's why Kansas City loves him. It's because he's tough.
And I want to make the point here that the rules of advantage, the way the rules of advantage are put in there, I think Christina Uncle is right in saying that is how it should be called. But my point is that's a bad rule. So I'm not saying like Christina, I'm not attacking Christina Uncle here. I'm not saying she is wrong. I'm saying it's a dumb rule and we need to change the way referees call this. And I'm sorry.
After you're
Go ahead.
You were giving kudos to Johnny for not doing the diving thing. Kudos to Jake for just rubbing the back of his head and looking back at him like, what an asshole for headbutting me.
Yeah.
You know, he was tougher than that. So even though it cost him.
That's my right back.
Hopefully that's the right back of the future. Hopefully it's him and Caden fighting it out over the next couple of years.
Yeah, that'd be a good duel. Because I do like Caden Pierre's game a lot as well.
Do you remember when Thad said that Caden would play this year and he has played 0 games for Sporting KC?
It's crazy, isn't it?
I passed him in the hallway in the press box one time, and if not for that one passing moment, I would have no evidence that he exists this year.
It's only been because of injury, though. I mean,
right.
He would have been playing if it wasn't for hamstrings.
The holidays are a time to feel and create joy. And what could be more joyous than the look on her face as she unwraps a stunning new jewelry piece from Blue Nile? How about getting 50% off your purchase? Blue Nile offers premium quality, priced below traditional retail. Their online experts are available 24/7 to answer any questions and make sure you've picked the perfect gift. For a limited time, you can get 50% off at BlueNile.com. That's 50% off at BlueNile.com.
So, Cody, do we want to look at the standings, or do you want to save that for later this week?
Yeah, let's look in on the standings here briefly before we get out of here.
All right, guys, 2 matches left. Most Sporty can get is 44 points, right? Okay, so that means they're going to have to go over one team, and there are 4 teams ahead of them right now. Dallas at 41, San Jose at 42, Portland at 43, Vancouver at 43, RSL at 43. So that's actually 5. However, Portland and San Jose are the only 2 that have the same amount of games. So
right.
Dallas, Vancouver, and RSL, who plays at LAFC tonight, have 3 games left.
Okay.
So if you want to look at it realistically, it's going to be tough to hurdle over those other 3. So let's look at Portland and San Jose. 5 and 4 points ahead of us. So we have to win out and hope for what happened last night, guys, which was a lot of draws.
And just a
last
reminder,
night was very, very kind to us with all those draws.
just a reminder that, as we talked about last week, it seems like the team believes that this whole time they've just needed 2 more wins here. Like that this was kind of in their plan. In the final 3 games, they had 1 other loss built in. And I guess I will also add, I'm feeling like I was feeling after the Nashville game, like many people are feeling now. Like, oh, like I just give up. They don't deserve to make the postseason. I hope they don't. Mass changes, et cetera, et cetera. But then remember, they came back out the next game and put on a very good, gritty performance, an impressive performance. They did all the things we want them to do. So I tried last week. I was like, I'm going to try to have a level head about this and remember that they can do this and that they just need the 6 more points. So a 4-1 loss is absolutely terrible, but it's still just the 1 loss. It doesn't, how bad of a loss doesn't really matter. So they're not out of it yet, but at the same time, it's like, do they deserve it? I feel like they don't deserve it. Thad, do they deserve to get in the postseason?
Hey, if 9 teams are going to go in, somebody's got to get in. I mean, it's got to be somebody. So after the last loss in St. Louis, Sporting went on the next 4. They won 3, drew 1. So it is possible they win out. It is possible they get in. And Melia also, again, last night in the presser, reiterated that they knew they needed to win 2 out of the last 3. And so they made it tougher on themselves, but they still need to win those 2, which is feasible. I mean, they can beat Salt Lake in Salt Lake, and they can beat Minnesota here.
And we're going to come back on Tuesday night and give another little preview of the Wednesday games and weekend games. So, David, how are you feeling about all this right now?
You know, I'm torn because I'll never root against the team. I never want to watch us lose. I never want to see Sporting do anything but take all 3 points home and bring home trophies. But part of me wants us to miss the playoffs because it will get increasingly hard to justify the status quo. And, you know, does that mean Vermees out? Does that mean Bliss out? Does that mean Fontes out? I don't know what, missing the playoffs for a 2nd year in a row and for the 3rd time since 2019 after so many years of being good, I think sends a message to the front office that things need to change. And I think sneaking into the playoffs gives us the cover of like, well, we didn't have Gotti to start. We didn't have Allen to start. That's part of why we went 0-7-3 to start the year. That's bad. Whatever.
See, I don't even think that they need to make the playoffs. For me, they've already done it. Like since they've been at that 1.65 points per game that we talked about last week for the majority of the season now. I think that's enough. Like the powers that be are just going to say that that's enough, and he's already earned it.
And maybe, but I think it's increasingly difficult on ownership in the front office to keep Vermees or keep the status quo if results are bad. And missing the playoffs, it doesn't matter that you play at a high clip the second half of the year if you miss the playoffs again. The whole point is to win trophies, and we're going to strike out magnificently again. And so part of me wants us to miss the playoffs so that some change happens. I don't think the ownership group will fire Vermees in the offseason. I just don't. But I think the team really needs to have a serious look at who we're bringing in, who's doing the talent acquisition, and which players we need to move on from. Because, I know we just gave Andreu a fat contract, but he's been bad all year. He's had good games, but Fontes has been bad all season long.
It was terrible to watch.
I'm usually a Fontes defender, although I've said he's had bad games and made mistakes and stuff like that. That clearance that he made last night, every time I go back and look at it, he was put under pressure. He could play it out and give him a corner kick, which they're good at set pieces, or try to clear it out between two players that were rushing in at him, and he didn't clear it high enough that it went over top of, was it Stroud? Anyway, whatever player it was, over their head. So he didn't have a lot of places to play it that wasn't maybe setting them up for a bad situation with another set piece. Because that's one of the things they're good at, was set pieces. So I don't necessarily blame him for trying to clear it out that way. And he only had that limited little space. Now, did he make it? No. So, I mean, it is still a mistake. But I do understand why he played it that way. Vermees said he probably shouldn't have done it that way, but that's also hindsight when you're facing your goal and you can try to play it out. You can try to play it past the goal, but again, that could have been dangerous. So he tried to play it between two unrushing players. So I get that one. I mean, I understand that one.
Wow, I didn't even have to try to pretend to defend Fontes on that one. That did it for me.
Yeah, well, I like Fonte, and he's not perfect, but there's a lot of good to him. When the team's better around him, I mean, they don't play well against that style, obviously, but he's been pretty good at times. He's been not so good at times, but every other player on the field can be said about too.
Okay.
Do we want to move on to the other two results from this weekend real quick?
Yeah.
SKCII, who got to choose their opponent, chose a higher ranked opponent than they needed to choose, chose Austin, played Friday night.
We sucked. It was terrible to watch.
And I think Benny chose, he played a 3-back or 5-back, however you want to describe it, formation. It worked against St. Louis City too the previous week. And because of all that high pressure, it gave them more people back there. But I don't think it worked well against Austin, and I think that was a mistake to go with that route. But anyway, they ended up losing 2-0, 52nd minute, and then another late goal.
We sucked.
And what about the Current?
We sucked.
They suck too. Actually played pretty well most of the game. Controlled a lot of the play in the first half. I mean, they were definitely the better team in the first half. And they just could not hold on. They gave up because Dabinia she took a penalty in the first half, so they were up 1-0. Almost the exact same pattern as when they played Washington here. Kansas City was up 2-0 at that point. In that game, they ended up losing 3-2. This one, they were up 1-0 and ended up losing 2-1. Trinity Rodman goal in the stoppage time. The tying goal was kind of like one of those seeing eye goals that just goes through traffic and sneaks in. So
yeah, can't stop Trinity Rodman these days.
Well, they did for 90+ minutes, and
right.
Their game plan was to disturb her.
For all my fellow optimists out there, we're not dead yet. We're still going. We got 2 more games of this. It might be suffering. It might be suffering, but we got 2 more games that we can support our team. I don't know. I'm trying. Can you tell I'm convincing myself and it's not working?
1 more home game for Sporting, 1 more home game for the Current. They actually have, 2 technically, if you want to count a friendly against Monterey on Wednesday night, which was crazy to schedule because if they're still in the playoff hunt, which they technically aren't eliminated yet, but they're almost gone. It's crazy to have a friendly in the midst of that playoff hunt. So I don't know who scheduled that. That was stupid. But they still have 1 more game. Sporting has 1 more game.
2.
SKCII's gone, and I'm ready for indoor soccer season to start.
About time for the blue field and the Comets, I think. David, any final words here?
I would like Thad to say something optimistic to bring up my spirits, because I'm just ready for the end of the season at this point.
Well, he said something good about the Comets. That was kind of optimistic. He brought in another team that we can support. What's good about the Comets, Thad?
Comets usually do really well against St. Louis.
Oh, there we go.
Hey.
Brought it back. Good man. All right. Sport Egg.
The other side don't seem so tough, and 3 own goals ain't all that rough. Our skipper has just been sent off. Supporters strong have all gone soft. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. Give me beer or whiskey, wine or gin, anything to shake this mood I'm in. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking.